Hey there, my name's Joe Keyport, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. For this week's episode, I talked to Laura and Danielle of the band Scrunchies. About a month ago, the band released their sophomore record, Feral Coast, after sitting on it for over 2 years. During the interview, we talk about the band's lineup shift between Stunner, their 2018 debut, and the new record, and working towards a heavier sound. This is definitely one of those interviews that I've been waiting to do for a long time, ever since they released their debut in 2018. And it's Scrunchies, right here on the Ear Coffee Podcast. How's it going?
Great. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. I was wondering, how was Midwest Music Fest for you?
It was really fun.
Nice.
The weather was, the early festival season this year has been kind of garbage.
Yeah.
It was raining pretty much the entire time we were down there and driving back. But it was really fun. A lot of people still came out. It felt very supportive, and everyone was super responsive and stuff. And we played first at No Name Bar, and I think we just shook the heck out of that place right off the bat. So yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
Nice. Yeah, the band I played in, we played at the Beer Garden right after Products. And so we had a small enough window of no rain, but I still played in Carhartts and bandana.
Yeah.
You're just it's wet.
Yeah.
But
we were thankfully inside.
Yeah. Well, cool. As first, you want to just start off? I asked every band this question, which is, how do you describe Scrunchies when people go, "Oh, cool, you play in a band"? What kind of band is it? What's your your one sentence or your quick little go to either make the question go away so you can move on with your day, or you just want? So yeah, what's that for you?
I say it's like if Sleater Kinney fronted Shellac.
Yeah, I feel like I have different answers.
Changed. It's changed.
I think that's still pretty accurate.
I feel that's my initial where I was especially when we wrote Parallel, I was feeling yeah, we're Shellac now. But now I'm I don't know, we're kind of this radio station in Chicago described us as post everything rock and roll, and I feel
that's usually my go-to.
Yeah.
I mean, and it kind of depends. I feel like sometimes if you are having that conversation where someone's like, "Oh, you're in a band? What kind of music do you play?" Generally it's someone who is your grandma or something like that, or a coworker who doesn't play music or something. And so I think in those instances, I kind of go I don't know, we're kind of like a punk band, kind of rock and roll, but yeah, kind of just drift off that sentence into their imagination of what that's. So yeah.
Oh, I gotcha. So then, getting a little history of the band, I always wonder what makes people go from just wanting to play music for themselves to getting into music and playing for others. So quick and you don't have to get really in depth if you don't want to, but kind of where did you get into music and how did it kind of form into Scrunchies as we know them today?
So do you want me to start?
You could start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, personally, for me, I mean, I've always been around music. I started playing. I was in school band and I was in church choir and all of that stuff. It's just been a part of my life forever. And started playing guitar when I was 14 and started an all-girl band around that time too. And then, over the years, these bands kind of evolve into different versions of themselves. And then I met Danielle, and I'll let her kind of tell the story of how we met. But I met her, and I had been going a few years without playing guitar and fronting a band. I'd been in another band where I played bass and drums and I sang, but I hadn't been the primary songwriter in a guitar-driven band for a while. And having done that so much throughout my creative life, it really felt like there was a big thing missing from what I was doing creatively. And so I put the call out there, and this baby girl answered the call.
So my parents, so I'm from New York. My parents were New York City punks back in the 70s and 80s. So I just had that music taste always. And they always have kind of had their finger on the pulse, which is kind of annoying because a few weeks ago, my dad was "You know who Slint is? Danielle, do you know who Slint is?" And I was are you kidding me?
How embarrassing.
I felt disrespected. I was of course I know who Slint is that. He's yeah, you should listen to them if you haven't listened to them. You think I haven't listened to Slint?
Yeah.
Anyways, so we moved out here when I was 14 for my dad's job. And I like tried to play a bunch of instruments, and I just like was horrible at all of them, and also didn't care enough to try. Until I was like 14, and I like got one drum lesson, and it just clicked.
Yeah.
And then I was like, so then I formed a band with two of my friends called Bruce Violet, and we started playing around. And then I remember at like one of Bruce Violet's like first like real gigs, I guess you could say, I saw Laura, and I went up to Emily, and I was like, oh my god, that's Laura from Kid Forever. Like, oh, I really like, I love them, we should play a show with them. And in like classic Emily fashion, they ran up to Laura and was like, hi, we want to play a show with you. And then Laura,
yeah.
But then through that I like really loved everything that Laura did. Like, I heard of Baby Guts and Cadet, and I was really into like the punk scene, which is really funny because I was still a teenager. So I was like 17, 18, hanging out with all these people in their like mid to late 20s. And I was like, nothing's like, what's going on? Hey guys, like, I'm just a baby. But one day Laura just tweeted like, who wants to be in a band with me where I don't have to do any of the hard stuff like owning a van and something else, or like she actually now owns a van. But I was like, duh, me. So we like, she messaged me, she's like, are you serious? And I was like,
Is that a question?
Yeah, exactly. And then we, from then on, we like talked about who we wanted in the band. And then, you know, lineup has changed.
And now we have Matt in the band, who is in
we love Matt.
And he was in Condominium, which is like this amazing, iconic hardcore band that, you know, has an album out on Sub Pop and all of this stuff, and we just adore him. So he's
just a guy who loves to rock.
And so do we. And it's, you know, it's like the perfect combination.
Did you? And I did want to ask about that lineup change just a touch. Did you find it really easy for Matt to step in within the role of bass, because he had worked on the first record and he was like an engineer and stuff? Was it a pretty natural step in for Matt and with the
1,000%? Yeah, we were like so lucky.
It was like no question. Like, it just the dynamics were the same, if like not better. Like, it was easy to onboard him. He learned everything right away. He doesn't, you know, he doesn't step on our toes with our vision, but he like complements it really well. Which I think is like, you know, it's hard to do when you are an established musician yourself, to not like take your vision and want to kind of like glom it on top of someone else's. Like, he's really good at integrating what his skill sets are into like what we're already doing.
Or if Laura and I are arguing, we'll be like, Matt, what's the answer?
I know,
and we'll be like, oh.
Yeah. He's got the clear head when we're a little frazzled. So that's always good too.
It's always cool to have that person who's got everything, you know?
Yeah.
He's like secretly really funny too, which is like always a nice little surprise when it comes out, because he's so like quiet and to himself. So every once in a while he'll crack a joke and I'll be like, ooh.
Coming in.
So the newest record, Feral Coast, has been out for about a month. Is it April?
Yeah, it was April 1st. Yeah.
April. So how does it feel to have the record finally out? I was reading on Racket that it had been done since 2020. So how does it feel to finally have it out in people's hands, sort of?
So great. I'm so pleased with the reception. I mean, like, I was terrified. I kept on saying it was like I was pregnant for like 3 years. And I finally birthed the baby. But yeah, no, I was like so proud of this record. And like, I think I was just, you know, when you hold on to something for too long, or I don't know, personally, once you're like doing your art and then you like are like, yeah, this is great. And then you sit on it for longer. You're like, oh my God, but what if? Like, what if people think this sucks? What if I think it sucks? Like, I don't think it sucks, but what if I think it sucks? You know, like just constantly tossing and turning about it. And like, I even had people who reached out to me like after years of not talking to me, being like, this album is super good. And I was like,
I think like having it done for so long, that is kind of like that thing where it's like you can start overthinking it. And I think we really kind of hit this sweet spot of like having enough time to rethink what we wanted to do sonically on the recordings, but not so much, you know, we didn't sit on it so much that we were like, you know, rewriting it or anything like that. right now I'm thrilled it's out. The vinyl is still not here. That's just been, supply chain issues taking forever. It's very frustrating, but I'm like personally ready to just start doing the next album because that's just how I work. And like, I think if something's like accomplished and finished, I'm usually kind of like, all right, great, cool. What's the next thing? And just want to immediately jump. So I'm trying to like kind of sit with it and be like, this was a really, a long time coming and it was a long process. And just because it was a long process doesn't mean we need to like shoot off into the stratosphere of like productivity and accomplishment or something. So just trying to keep myself in check about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, why did you wait so long to release it if it had been done for a minute like that? Was it did you not want it to get like lost in the hole of COVID releases or?
Yeah.
So we released No Home Planet originally like
in April of 2020.
Yeah. Okay. And it's like totally flopped.
Yeah.
Like, because, everybody was like, at that point, just releasing stuff because we all thought we were going to die. So we were like, F it, here's all my music.
I thought we were going to die. So I was like, I need to put my music out.
But then I think Laura and I talked and we were like, for this album, we kind of want to shop it around. Not kind of, we wanted to shop it around. We were like sending it to labels. Nobody was really biting, and we were like, okay, well, we kind of like wanted to like hold out on it. Like we weren't trying to be like, okay, well, this album has to come out like this year.
Right.
I think we were.
It's always an option for us to put the album out ourselves. And we definitely thought about that, but just sort of landed on like, this album was such a long time coming. We worked so hard on it. Both of us have been in bands where we've self-released stuff a lot and been on local labels. And we wanted to do something that was reaching a more national audience and like, and on top of that, have the opportunity to tour on it. So, it was hard to make all of those things happen. And it kind of just felt like every little solution was followed by another like 4 months of waiting and another 4 months of waiting and another, so it just kind of felt like, and, ultimately it all works out because truthfully, I mean, touring is still very stop and go right now. And we still don't have the vinyl, but it's like, if we don't even know if we can successfully go on a 2-week tour with a vinyl right now, like, then we might as well just wait till July when it actually shows up and then figure it out, So it's really frustrating, but it also feels like the timing will sort itself out in the end, and we just have to trust that or something.
Yeah.
Plus, I feel like Ken from Dirt Nap has been really great. I mean, the reason we I think figured or like found each other was because Laura sent me a little screen cap that Dirt Nap Records has listened to your demos several times, and I was like, my big thing lately has been just message someone, just say something, what are they gonna do? Judge you? And I think we were just kind of hi, we noticed that you've been listening to this, hi. And he was like, I love it. And since then, we've had some experiences where it's kind of I feel like, music business is a music business. It's going to be confusing and you don't really know what's going on and you don't want to admit it. Or at least me, because I'm also younger and I think everything is BS.
I mean,
fair. It is. Yeah.
It was nice to sit down and talk to Ken over the phone and be okay, this is what we want. Can we actually get this? And yeah, I don't know. I've been really grateful for that. And then noticing the other bands and releases that have come out on Dirt Nap, I'm oh wait, that's sick. I didn't know that. And even somebody came up to me being oh my God, that's so sick. You're on Dirt Nap Records. And I was cool.
It's maybe not the most obvious fit. And it wasn't one of our, admittedly, it wasn't one of our very first choices, which would have been Hardly Art or something like that. But it's for what it is, he has the perfect kind of balance of someone who's been around the scene for a long time and understands the punk DIY mentality and kind of allows us to do what we want with understanding that we're creative people in many different ways. He's not forcing his, creative process into our process, which, is awesome.
With such a long time span as well, were you able to be a little pickier with the recording and kind of reworking stuff, or did you, once you had it recorded, did you just have it done? I know you kind of mentioned that you had to make sure you didn't overanalyze, but
well, I thought I just keep talking a lot this time.
Okay.
I thought it was actually pretty good because there were a few songs that like. So Parallel is like a great example of why I was happy we like waited to sort of release it, or like, you know, not tried to force the album out, was because like originally Laura wanted to cut that song because like the vocals were completely different. Like, I mean, besides like one thing where like the bridge that I sang, like that's it. That was the only thing that transferred over. But you're like, yeah, no, I'm not feeling this song. And I was like, no, like, please, please, can we do this song? Like, and we went through like, Laura, my songstress, my muse, the real artist, went through like all these different like ways of approaching it. And then she finally sent me the vocal like demo of her singing what it was now. And I was like, oh yeah, like that is 1,000% it. And,
like the night before we were going to
literally that night. And also, fun fact, the first time we recorded, I was deathly ill. When we recorded vocals, I was like off pitch. I was like, you know what, it is what it is.
Like, it's punk, baby.
Yeah, it's rock and roll, it's DIY. And then I think you guys were like, yeah, you should re-record your vocals. And I was like, yeah, 1,000% I should. I think it sound like trash.
Yeah, it was mostly vocal stuff that we ended up redoing, and like maybe one or two like guitar overdubs or something like that. But
Ditch was like a really last minute ad.
Yeah, we wrote the second to last song, Ditch, like very last minute, and that was the one that kind of felt like, well, we had the album done, but then it didn't feel complete. It felt like a collection of like B-sides or something, or like a collection of singles or something like that. You know, it didn't feel like an album. And something that like I feel really strongly about is having a cohesive album that sounds good from beginning to end. You want to listen to the whole thing. And so Ditch, you know, writing that really last minute and recording it in that way made it feel like a comprehensive album.
So then talk to me a little more about writing this record. Where was the band at as you were working on these songs? I'm assuming you were writing, you know, 2019, after Stunner came out 2018, or is it before that?
So Wildlife and Black Egg were songs that we had when we still had Brie and Stephanie. Like we played those on tour. They were like pretty new when we were touring in 2018, 2019, but they were still there. But then like through the lineup change, I think what happened was like during Stunner, I was just the drummer. This is also the big change with it, where it's like I only play drums and Scrunchies for the first album. And I feel like I was like, this is Laura's band. I'm just going to do what I'm told. And then when Brie and Stephanie left, we like talked over the phone. And Laura's like, do you want to keep doing this? And I was like, yeah, duh. Like, of course I want to keep doing this. And I think through that, well, number one, we lost the other singer in the band because we decided to be a 3-piece because we were a 4-piece. And then Laura's like, okay, well, you're going to have to sing. And I was like, fuck. But through that, I think I was able to like add more of my, like, I'm a very different singer from Stephanie. Like Stephanie's more like, I don't know, pretty melodic, and I sound like, I don't know, I yell on pitch, like, you know, like more punk, I guess. More but I feel like I don't want to say force is a bad word. I was able to like integrate my style of songwriting and I don't know, musicianship with Laura's instead of just being like, yeah, well, I'm just going to do what Laura tells me to. I was like, no, like, actually, I'm going to do what Laura tells me to. But I'm also going to, like, be like, okay, well, maybe we should do this. Or, like, maybe, like, what if we add this? And I think I felt more comfortable being as, like, Scrunchies is, like, me and Laura.
Well, and that made more sense too, because I think inherently like that made the band more of itself than it already was. Like I think I was playing a lot to Stephanie and Bree's strengths, which are perfect, amazing strengths. But then when it was just me and Danielle and, you know, eventually Matt, it ended up feeling like, you know, we both have a heavier background. Matt has a really heavy background. And so it just kind of ended up turning into that. And so to answer your question about the years that we were writing this, it's those two songs were written, you know, probably 2018, and like finessed over a period of time. The rest of the songs were fairly quickly between 2019 and 2020. I do think we wrapped up a lot of stuff.
I think it was late 2019.
But we like finished Ditch and stuff in
2020. Yeah. But like everything.
Because we released No Home Planet before the album was done.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, whatever. It's like a messy little timeline of all those years. But like, I don't know. I mean, it felt like a lot of the songs on that album really encompass like a big swath of like our lives and our personal lives and like the political, sphere and all of this stuff. And so kind of like, it's not a really cohesive narrative per se, but it's, it definitely is like a snapshot of like stuff that was happening during like, a time period of like 4 years or something like that.
I kind of interrupted it with my question, but like talk to me more on the process shift as the band pared down into that trio, and Laura, you and Danielle became more of like a songwriting duo as opposed to like, not to call it a Laura solo project with musicians, but like it kind of seems like that was the initial intention, and now it's more of it's a band,
Yeah. Well, initially it kind of felt to me, and like, I don't know if this was everyone's perception, but like in my mind, it was like a super group when we started.
That was the term I was going to use earlier, but I decided to strike it because I didn't want to.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I know it's like a cheesy term, and people are like, "Oh, so you're like Golden Smog, huh?" And it's like, "What? No, I don't know, whatever." But I don't know. Like the process of songwriting didn't change a ton in terms of like, I still brought songs and I still bring songs to practice, but I feel like I'm a little less like hand holding through the process. And it honestly, especially with bass, like Bree was an absolutely phenomenal bass player. She's in Double Grave as well. And it's, she I picked her because I was like, this is an amazing bass player. I just love her style, like whatever. And, I found that like I had such a like grasp on those early songs that I was writing all of those bass parts for her and showing them to her. And so it felt like from like the top down, I was like, I had my fingers in all of those pies or whatever. And now that I feel like I've said that in like four pie. It's like a finger in that pie and a finger in that pie.
It's a strange saying, but all right.
I hope that's the right saying.
Sounds right. We'll go with it.
Fingers in something. I don't know. But anyway, Matt is, also a very accomplished bass player. He knows how to write really engaging bass parts. And some of the things that he's written are things that I have not come up with. And so I think that a lot of this process has been me letting go and like letting people who are skilled at what they do the thing that they can do. And Danielle was always doing that. It's not like I was showing her drum parts to write or anything like that. But I think like with the fact that Matt is a very capable musician and kind of just picks up on things right away, Danielle and I are on the same page musically about what we're trying to do. I feel like that allows us more space to kind of like enhance what we're trying to do musically and not feel so I personally don't feel so bogged down in those little minutiae of things that I'm not necessarily playing. And so I have the chance to like trust that my bandmates are going to be doing the thing that they do and doing it really well. And then I can kind of like say like, okay, well that means I can like spend more time like, playing with guitar sounds that aren't just like the 3-chord thing. And then like, just having a little more breathing room in the process.
Was letting go pretty natural for it? Felt like a pretty easy process for you, Laura? Okay, I was like,
no.
Okay. She's an Aquarius.
No, sometimes I like to say I don't play well with others either. So
I mean, I really, I can't do anything without people in my life helping me, and my bandmates are a part of that. But like that is notoriously a problem for me, is that I really have a hard time letting other people help me, or like letting other people, do anything.
Also, what happened was Laura and I got much closer through the pandemic. I think between like Scrunchies just being the three of us and us having so much free time, we were just like, yeah, okay. But But no, it's like, I think we got close and now we trust. I mean, not that we didn't trust each other. Yeah, like we're in a band for years, but it's like we're more so like, you're not trying to do anything to undermine me or like in a malicious way. Yeah. Like which is also, as I said, I'm from New York. I'm very forward. Like I'm very, which like some people can take as like, oh, like she's either being really passive aggressive or she's just really mean. Where I feel like you are one of the only people, you and Matt are some of the only people where I can like say things that you're just like, yeah, or I'd be like, shut up, Danielle. I'm like,
yeah, things like that don't really affect me that much, especially if it's like, I know this person likes me and I know this person is my friend and I know that we trust each other and that like we can like give each other the space that we need when we need to. And, you know, Danielle is an abrasive person and I don't, it's like, and I'm not, I feel like I'm
yeah, no, Laura had to talk me down. I got really mad at Midwest Music Fest about something and I was like ready to start like throwing hands. She's like, Danielle. Like, it's just, it's not that.
We just balance each other out like that because I'm like a real pacifist.
Yeah, because sometimes she'll let stuff slide. I'm like, no.
I know that's a problem too.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. I think we really do like this dynamic just really works between the three of us and like, even like sonically, it's. It just like, as I said, I love my bandmates, but like Matt and I, like, you know, that like rhythm section, like solidness, like I really have never experienced such a good bass and drum. Like, wow, it's patting myself on the back. Like,
oh, you deserve it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because like even like we'll sound check and he'll play a bass part and I'll be like, oh my god, like that's good. And I didn't even notice that he's playing that because we're like all so loud. But we're like, I don't know, he's just as abrasive as I am, but also he's so good at like accenting, which is like something that I really look or like try to do when I write my drum parts. It's like I'm trying to accent the song and not just be like, I'm just gonna play like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, I want to like hit where Laura is doing these like specific hits or like change things when they're like wow, lost my train of thought.
When they're changing it.
To change things when they're changing. I don't know. I think of like when I'm writing drum parts, like I'm basically a Janet Weiss, Dave Grohl ripoff, like Dave Grohl Nirvana ripoff. So like, I don't know. Matt is just as hard as I am, which is hard to like, I don't know, have. I feel like in a dynamic.
Well, I feel like, I mean, I'm playing with a band that I would want to watch live. Like I would like, if I came to a show and Danielle and Matt were the rhythm section, I would like shit my pants. Like I would be like, this is everything. This is like exactly what I want in my music, you know? Like
thank God.
Yeah, thank God.
So then you kind of touched on this a little earlier with how much you like to move on from project to project and look forward. What was that vision or like that specific thing you were looking to do as you moved into Feral Coast from Stunner? What was that thing?
I really wanted to expand on the like the dynamics of what we were doing and kind of push the heavier stuff to be a lot heavier and the you know, I guess the quieter stuff or like the more melodic stuff to like be really well written. And I think what we nailed it pretty much. And like, I think that like what with these songs, you know, they're really heavy, but I think if you strip them down, they're also just like good songs and you can like sing along to them. And they're like, you know, you could play, I mean, you're not going to do this, but you could play them around a campfire. Or whatever, you know, like they're just like, I mean, they're not just one dimensional, I guess. And like my intention with it was to kind of move into this realm of like, you know, how do we get a heavier, even like, you know, I think the thing that I don't love about bands who put out multiple albums is that they have a really good first album and then they try to follow it up with something that doesn't quite suit them because they're trying to match the success of their first album or something like that. And, you know, I have no idea if people think we've done that or whatever, but like my thought is that like we've moved in the direction that I want to be moving in, which is like heavy, which is, you know, like, I don't know, exciting and like fun, but like, you know, having the same emotions in it or something.
You almost want it to feel dangerous.
Ooh, yeah.
To a degree. I mean, not like I'm going to get stabbed dangerous, but like, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
maybe.
No, I love that.
Maybe.
I mean, I'll stab anybody. No, that's a really good point. I feel like I was taken aback because it was like I didn't really think about it like that, but like yes, like that is true. It feels like it's not a safe route.
No,
we're taking.
I was literally thinking about that yesterday, where it's like I know most people say that like the second album is a sophomore slump, but I was like, no, like I am so like. Besides it doing better than Stunner did, like I guess stream wise, also,
yeah.
but you know, like
that's the game.
I just was like, I am so proud of this album, and I feel like it's like usually like bands will put out this amazing verse because you know you have all the time in the world to write it, and this is also my like COVID tangent. We'll go back to that,
okay.
But like, and then with the second album, you're like, you feel like you have to like rush because you're like, oh well, the people want it, like you gotta hurry it up. And this sounds so messed up, but I was grateful for COVID in the way where like you were kind of forced to like pump the brakes and be like, no, like, well, I mean, you could release stuff right now, but nothing's gonna happen. But I feel like it kind of forced us to like sit down and be like, okay, what do we actually want from this record, instead of feeling like we have to like just release it. Because I feel like I was talking to my parents about it, and I was like, fun fact, they did not like Feral Coast when they first heard it.
Really?
And I was devastated. I was like, my parents hate it. It's bad. Like, but I talked to them about that recently. I was like, remember when you told me you didn't like Feral Coast? And they were like, well, you showed us like the pre, like mastered pre, like fully mixed. They were like, it was all over the place. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was like it was like the first ever, like, I was just trying to get it out. And I was like, I want everybody to hear this because it's a new album. But like, I think, yeah, like I am so now about like, take your sweet time writing the music that you want to write. I feel like I'm the opposite of Laura. So I feel like I like pull you back a little bit, where I'm just like, no. Like, there's no rush. Like, just take your sweet time. Because then the more time you give it, the more love you give it, it will be, I don't know. I feel like it's better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I also like put out a solo album right away. You know,
she did.
At the exact same time we were working on, finishing Feral Coast. I put out this entire other album and like, whatever. But I also think like with this album, something that's a little different, like in terms of a mind shift, is like, I think for every single band that I've been in, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this, but like every single band that I've been in has been very vocal about like the current state of like politics and the current, what the experiences, like our lived experiences are, and like, helping other people out in community, and like all of this stuff kind of rolled into like this, almost like a platform, for all of these bands, which is, I think, super important. And I recognize that like being in a position like this lends itself really well to having the opportunity to use your voice in that way for like good or whatever. And I think that I was personally putting a lot of pressure on myself to create like the perfect version of that. And I think, something that I've had to kind of like let go of is that like the idea that to be in a band, you have to be like the spokesperson for the movement or something like. And so I think that's something that like I've really stepped, not back from, because I think it's like we're doing the work, but I'm putting less pressure on myself to like feel that every interview we do, I have to like bring up abortion access, or I have to bring up, all of this stuff. And it's like, I feel very strongly about those things. I'm giving my money, I'm giving my time. I do, I'm doing the work in the day to day, but I feel like I'm letting go of like the personal,
the Instagrammable moment.
Yeah. It's just like, it's like there's plenty of white women talking about this stuff, and I don't need to be another one. I can just do the work and like, have that speak for itself, instead of feeling like I'm stumbling over my words and trying to say the perfect thing about it. And so that feels like it's kind of a load off my chest a little bit, because I can focus a little more on the music while still feeling like I'm, participating in, our feminist socialism.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is what it is. Or it's like, I forgot through COVID time, not forgot, lived in my liberal bubble about like, oh yeah, I'm a woman playing punk music and I'm a drummer. Like, I'm going to endure some terrible comments made to me.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's like, it's just my lived experience and I don't feel the need to like, because, with Bruce Violet, oh my God, I was such a like, so vocal. I would shush people on stage. I would call people out on stage. I would scream about everything. And I think throughout time I've learned, like, I was also in this band Tony Pichka, which was like kind of like, God, this is again another pat on the back, like low-key revolutionary in the way where like we were all women talking or like playing these songs about like sex and like really openly talking about our sexuality, and like it was just fun. Like we didn't really think much about it. And I remember like we had an interview where this guy was like, so this song, you say you're the girl who gets on your knees, like, is that religious? And we were all like, oh,
no.
My God.
We were all just, it's like you endure this stuff, but like making it my whole identity and like being that like person who feels like I have to be the spokesperson and like the perfect feminist and the perfect like activist, like it just like takes a toll on you.
Well, I think it's another point of pressure for particularly women musicians. I mean, this is like, it is a thing that like I think a lot of us felt, this narrative of like, if you're not talking about this, then you don't care about it. And it's like, that's, I don't think that's entirely always the case. Like, I think some people are good at talking about it. I don't think I'm necessarily amazing at talking about any of that stuff, but I do know that like I can show up and like, rally when I need to or whatever. And, that should also count for something. And just because I'm like in front of a microphone doesn't mean I have to have this like perfect thing. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit of a like gray area with some of that, so I'm whatever. But
and communicators are a really big important part of like the movement. But people have to, like you said, people have to show up and like people have to do the grittier side of public action and like
we can't all be leaders.
Yeah.
Like you don't need 1,000 leaders. Like some people just have to do the grunt work, and like I'm okay being a musician who's like also doing the grunt work. Like that's fine. I can do that. I love grunting.
So I did want to ask about a specific track on the record, and that's the title track. Because one, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the song, and two, I really like the way it was produced and I want to talk about the B-sides and demo comp or EP you're releasing. I didn't know the right word for it. That you're releasing along with it. It doesn't always feel like it left quite that stage in a way. So first, and I mean that in the best way possible.
It was, that was intentional. So thank you.
So first talk to me about, the title track, Feral Coast, and then kind of the decision that went around kind of keeping it more true to form, which you'll find on the B-sides and demos.
I wrote that song in like 20 minutes. I just like sat down and just like sometimes it just happens, where you just start like, how like, I mean, I am not actually, I shouldn't even say this.
Say it.
I was going to say, it's like, how Dolly Parton wrote Jolene and
I will always love you in the same night.
Like within the same 3 hours or something. I'm not saying it's at that level. Those songs are like God tier. No way did I write a song like that. But I understand that sentiment where things just kind of like, it just comes out of you and it's a great song and you could just leave it. And I recorded it just, on my computer in GarageBand, like with no microphone and like my guitar plugged into a practice amp. And it just, was something that I just like whipped out in one night and then really loved how the recording sounded. And then when I brought it to Matt, I was like, what can we do to make this sound exactly the same as this? And obviously if if that song was halfway through the album, having a sound like that wouldn't work, but putting it at the end, we can kind of work with that like lo-fi vibe. And then Matt had the idea of bringing in the entire band into that like middle section of it, where it is like this, kind of like huge poppy, almost like Green Day feeling, like, you know what I mean? Like big, ambitious part or something, and then just have it die down again. Which I think like for the album itself was exactly what it needed. But I also wanted to honor the fact that like that demo was the demo. Like that was the one version that existed that was written and just like recorded immediately before we did the album.
I love that song. It's my favorite song on the album. When Laura showed it to us, I was like, this is the best song I've ever heard.
It's a little catchy.
It's a little. Oh my God, it got stuck in my head immediately after doing it. Just the so good. Oh my God. And then the first time I heard the full band, like, or the whole song finished with the full band, I cried. I was like, this song is so beautiful. Because it's just also like so vulnerable. And I think that's just like a rarity in Scrunchies land.
Yeah.
So Laura, I like to say, writes songs like Zodiac Killer. It's like you kind of know you're just like, yes, work queen. You don't know what the hell she's saying. Like, but this one was just like, oh, it's so beautiful, descriptive, and like, as I said, it's so vulnerable. And then when we all kick in together, I feel like it just like is like an emotional catharsis. Yeah, no, I love that song, and I thought ending with it was just like perfect. At first I was a little like I don't know, I really like this song, maybe it should be earlier, but then when I heard it at the end of the album, I was like, oh, it makes absolute sense. But even playing it live, I'm like, I love this song. Like, I really do. Plus, it's an excuse for me and Matt to just sit there for 2 minutes. I know
So then talk a little bit about the inclusion of the B-sides and demos part with the album rollout, because there's 2 songs on there that I don't recognize from anywhere, which is Country Torini, if I'm pronouncing that right, and then Surface Damage, plus there's the Absolute Maximum electro punk remix that was on your solo record. So what was the decision behind that and wanting to include it and just like put it out in the public?
One of the reasons we did that was because I felt bad for how long this album was taking, that I wanted it to be more than just the album itself. And I wanted to be like, hey, thanks for waiting. Like, here's a bunch of extra stuff that's like fun. And so, you know, it's kind of like, I always like hearing like weird little extra things that bands come up with. And I didn't really want, you know, it to be like super serious. So it is kind of like a hodgepodge of stuff that I've had around. Like Surface Damage is like all me. I played every instrument on that one. And it's something that it's not going to be a song we play live ever. It's just going to be what it is. And it's, you know, it's a fun song that just didn't fit into anything else that we were doing. And then Country Torini is actually a country version of the second song on the album, which is Torini Decorating. So, so if you listen in that context, it's kind of funny. So it's, and that was kind of fun, like a fun challenge for myself to sort of rewrite a song that we already had into like a, you know, a Meat Puppets version of it or something like that. So, so I don't know. I mean, it was kind of like a light decision that was like, I just want to do something like fun and a little frivolous and like a treat for people that have waited for this album to come out.
Also, that electropunk version of Absolute Maximum, I was obsessed with. So when Laura released that album, it was like April 2020, May.
It was May 2020.
And she sent it to me. She's like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Like, Matt's gonna master it if you want to do the cover art. But then I heard Absolute Maximum and I was like, this is the best song I've ever heard. That's just like the epitome of being in a band with me. I'm gonna gas you up.
Yeah, this is like a very like complimentary interview. So thank you.
But Laura was talking about wanting to like take one of the songs from that album and like make it a full band Scrunchie song. And you wanted a different song. And I was like, no. I was like, oh, I didn't say no. I said, oh, I don't know. But I was like, no. Absolute Maximum. Like, we gotta try this. Like, this song like rips. And I think we like, you changed the lyrics a little bit and like we changed the structure a little bit. But like, oh yeah, now every time that song is played, like people love that song.
That riff is so good.
It's a really fun.
Yeah, it's super, super fun. Even my dad was like, I noticed that during Absolute Maximum, everybody's bobbing their heads in the crowd. So that's a good thing. And I was like, thanks, Dad.
I think Absolute Maximum is funny because like horrible fact about me is that when I was like coming of age in like the early 2000s, guess what was popular on the radio? Nu metal. And I think that like I think that there's some string attached to like that era of my life that is like kind of touching on the Absolute Maximum thing a little bit, where it's like, oh, you can just write a song with 2 notes and have it be like absolute like
maximum.
Yeah, nailed it.
Oh yeah, I used to joke that was like the break stuff of our album.
Yeah.
And then I think it was Halloween. You sent a picture of you dressed up as Fred Durst.
Oh yeah, I remember.
It was so. Oh god, Scrunchies is like low key a nu metal band.
No, don't say that. No, we're not.
The tagline of the interview.
We're start describing ourselves to people. Post nu
metal.
Post nu metal band.
No,
that's funny.
Bad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Thinking back over the release, working on this record and the release, what's your favorite individual moments, whether it's a song or a part of a song or writing, like a memory from writing or recording? Like what's something that when you think about the process of putting out Feral Coast that you instantly like sticks out to you, whether it could be good, it could be bad, like what's a moment?
I love this question.
Yeah.
God, I don't know why this popped into my head, but like for a number of months after the album was finished, but before we had like done anything with it, really, we were just still shopping it around. I would occasionally get a text from Matt at like 1 a.m. that was like, fucking Wildlife, man, it fucking shreds. Like that end part of Wildlife. I'm just like in my basement by myself listening to it, just rocking out. And it's like, I just love that. Like, I don't know why that's like really funny to me. But I don't know. I mean, I think like, God, I love recording. I know not everybody does. It's my favorite process of being in a band. It's one of my favorite. I like all of it, but it really is like very fun for me. And so I don't think I can really pick one. I just think like it's fun to kind of finalize lyrics and like go in and pick it out, pick them apart and stuff like that. Jeez, Let me think. Do you have one?
No, well, Matt's random texts are some of my favorites of recording because even. I don't know how we got on this, but he just texted us out of the blue one day being like, you guys ever listen to the Spice Girls? Spice Up Your Life rips. Like, that's just like the way,
yes, Matt.
That's the way
we know.
We're like, but I don't know. I think of like, you go.
Okay. Well, I think, my favorite part on the album, I think one of my favorite moments on the album is something that we had to do twice, but it's Danielle's drum part in New What, where it's in the second verse where she goes, and it's flawless. And it like, she'll do it live. And I used to play a little guitar part over it, but now I just don't because it's just like, let Danielle shine with this like
my little triplets.
It's just like such a good fill that like I just think is like, I don't know, it's like a treat for people to listen to.
That's so funny. LOL. No, because when Laura brought that song in, I was like, this is a Smashing Pumpkins song. Like I was like, I'm gonna be Jimmy Chamberlain and go fucking crazy. I hate that I did that because now every time we play it live, I'm like, okay, like I have to do the best performance I've ever done in my life. Yeah. But thanks. As I said, Feral Coast, like hearing the full band version or like the full recording made me cry for the first time. That was kind of sweet and also pathetic. What else? I remember screaming. Oh, the part in the house play where it's like, "Pipe down to feel vacant." After I did that, Matt was like, "Whoa." It's like Matt's little commentary.
I know.
And then, as I said, the like reworking of Parallel is like definitely a highlight because I was like, I loved that song and I don't know why I was so willing to fight for that song. Like most of the time, I'm like so like yeah, whatever, I don't care. But that song, I was like, no.
Well, you saw potential in it, and I think the Parallel coming together felt like that puzzle piece thing where it's like, oh, duh, that's how it goes, and it felt like. The clouds part and the sun comes through and all of that stuff. So
yeah, I don't know. It's like every song has its funny, like, own little story. Where like Sway, we joke that we can't like practice it more than once because every time it gets worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just everything about this album. It's like I could go on and on, just like about every song and like a story behind each song because I don't know.
It was a process.
It was a big process, and it was like something that we actually had to like think about instead of like, as I said, I feel like previously I've just been in bands, even like the first Scrunchies album, where it's like, okay, well, it's done. Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like this was kind of the first album where I was able to like sit down and like, I don't know, sit with it and work on it and love on it.
Yeah.
Cool. Just a few questions left here. Is there anything people should be aware of that's coming up for the band?
We're opening for Built to Spill.
Oh, shit.
Which is nuts. Yeah. They cold messaged us out of nowhere.
But it's not in town here. It's not in town. It's not in Minneapolis. It's in, we're doing Louisville and Cincinnati and Cleveland in August with them, which is.
But yeah, no, Laura
cool.
just messaged us one day being like, this would be insane if we said no. And I was like, what is it? And then I opened it. I saw that Built to Spill messaged us. It was just like, hey, yeah, we listened to your record. We love it. You want to open for us? And I was like, I was at work and I work with babies. And I just go, and everybody's just like, and I was like, my band just got really great news. And everyone's like, okay. And then moves on. But that's definitely the most exciting thing in Scrunchies land.
Well, we're also playing Franconia Sculpture Park on the 21st or 22nd of May.
It's the shellac day. Hold on.
I have it on my calendar. It's Saturday, the 22nd. Danielle will look it up.
21st.
And yes, the 21st.
Thank you.
And then the other one we're doing is Caterwall at Palmer's on Sunday, May 29th, which is going to be a really fun show.
Yeah, it has Arc Welder, who's like a really amazing local band.
Yeah.
Local? Yeah, they're from here.
Midwesty.
Yeah.
I think something like that.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple like fun local outside shows coming up. And then hopefully hitting the road a little later in the summer.
Awesome. And where can people connect with the band online? What's your social media?
So we're on Instagram, and it's Scrunchies with 3 S's on either end of it, if that makes sense. And then we're on Facebook and Twitter too.
Cool.
Barely on anything, but we post about the things that we do there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, the record's called Feral Coast. You can listen to it now. Cassettes are available through State Champion Records, and vinyl can be pre-ordered through Dirtnap. And you can find links to those on your Bandcamp page. Danielle, Laura, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Congrats on the fantastic record.
Thank you for having us and listening to us talk about how much we like our own album.
As well.
The Ear Coffee Podcast is a companion to the blog of the same name. If you like this episode, please leave us a rate and review so we can stand out among the other music podcasts. You can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram @Ear Coffee. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.